Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show, where today we have with us Russ Jundt, who is the founder and vice president of Conserva Irrigation. This is a home irrigation company that is focused exclusively, entirely on saving you money and water. You don't want to miss this episode.
Welcome to Your Mark on the World, bringing you another change maker with champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.
This episode is made possible via the support of our sponsors, including Johnson & Johnson's Caring Crowd. Russ, welcome to the show.
Devin, thanks so much for having me. It's a privilege to be on your show.
The privilege is all ours. We're thrilled to have you. What you're doing is so incredibly important. I was eager to get you on and to learn more about what you're doing. As I see it, water is one of the scarcest resources on the planet, and our growing global population is going to stretch the need for that water in coming years. What's your take?
I'll tell you, you're bang on, Devin, with that. Water is incredibly vital to all of us as a global population, and it is incredibly scarce. And so much so that, well, really 3% of the Earth's water is fresh, 2% of that is frozen in the glaciers. So really only 1% of it being fresh. And take it one step further, I'm out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and the Great Lakes are right here, and 21% of that 1% is tied up in the Great Lakes. So if you follow that, 79/100ths of the Earth's water is fresh. And yet, what are we doing with it as a society? What are we doing with it more so as an industry, an irrigation industry? And we're arbitrarily spewing it across hard surfaces, sidewalks, driveways, streets. We're watering during the daytime when it's evaporating and the wind is taking it. We're overwatering. There's leaks, there's broken heads, lateral line leaks, mainline leaks, and it's really quite silly what we've been doing as an industry. So it's a huge calling for us.
Yes, it's kind of you to call it silly. I think of it as appalling. As some of the things, I go out for a morning run regularly through a nice neighborhood, and I'm always appalled when I see the sprinkler running on the sidewalk. I live right downtown, and there are little planters in the building next door. And I'm shocked when they water those in the middle of the day and they spew water all over the sidewalk. And I just think, the sidewalk doesn't need water. So just so important. So Russ, tell us about the technology and design of your system. How does it avoid sidewalks? How does it avoid overwatering? How does it avoid watering when the soil's already moist? What's going on?
So really what it is I was pleased. I had departed the irrigation industry in the mid to late 2000s because I was upset. I really was upset with the lack of thoughtfulness and design and use of this precious resource. And in 2010, when we founded Conserva, I went to the Irrigation Association National Trade Show, and I was pleased to find out, per your question, really is what had changed. And smart irrigation, high efficient irrigation, really at its core founding in the late 2010 area, 2011, was exactly the right timing for Conserva. And so we're data people, and so we gather all the data and we studied the numbers and we put together a great, really a system, if you will, of how to properly design, specify, and manage water properly through irrigation systems. So it really does start at that core of proper design, gathering the information. What are we watering? How are we going to water it? What's the infiltration rate or percolation rate of that soil? And what's the best times to do that? So it's really a kind of a whole concert of moving parts. But really, we partnered with a Toro company and we brought in their incredible smart technology and really their high efficient nozzles. And through that, we're able to reduce the water usage by 40 to 60%, which is substantial.
So again, how do we avoid sidewalks? Let's talk about that.
Oh, I'm sorry. So on the sidewalk, absolutely. So it's zoning properly. So instead of throwing heads that are going across that sidewalk. We're putting in microclimates. We're actually designing that system so that it's spraying and alternating just within that turf zone or that plant material within this near the sidewalks. And so we're able to keep a nice tight line with that and water during the middle of the night. So we're mitigating the risk of any drift from wind.
Are you able to adjust the flow of sprinklers or the schedule based on the moisture content of the soil now?
We do. So we use a couple varieties of wireless sensors. So we use precision soil sensors, which are doing exactly that. They're measuring the water content or moisture content of that area. And when the controller sends signal to say we want to water, it says no, we're good. The other type is that we use an ET or evapotranspiration sensor. And this is something that with the smart controller technology, we're already putting in the data for 40 years of weather data for that exact latitude and longitude. Then we're pairing that with an on-site ET or weather sensor, and it's telling us how are we deviating from weather normal? How are we deviating from normal seasonality at that exact latitude and longitude? And it's able to adjust those sprinklers down accordingly.
Wow, that's fascinating. Fascinating that how high-tech our yard sprinklers have become. I think you have a vision for this to reach beyond the United States. Tell us a little bit about some of your international expansion plans.
So we're already moving into Canada, which is a natural segue here from the US. But ultimately, we know that irrigation is widely used and widely accepted across the world. And in fact, I was just recently at a trade show for a significant chain of restaurants around the world. And many of those participants, those global partners, were coming in and speaking of the concerns that they have with water scarcity and how they can participate in high efficient irrigation.
Yeah, well, this is a huge opportunity. Let's talk a little bit about the opportunity. Conserva Irrigation is one of the brands at Outdoor Living Brands, right? And there are franchise opportunities. Tell us a little bit about that structure and how people can participate.
Yeah, so Devin, we franchised the model June of last year. We've been in testing and in pilot and in making for sure that our numbers are exactly where they need to be and that our systems are in place. And we partnered with Outdoor Living Brands really because of their ability to scale business and to run successful franchises across the US, and they have 4 other brands. And so we now are expanding across the US in areas, really all 50 states is our focus. So we anticipate having 400 locations by 2025. And so through that partnership, we're able to offer as the first franchise opportunity in the irrigation industry ever, which is a unique opportunity. And we want to make for sure that we're thoughtful, that we're methodical in how we proceed, and that we've gathered the right partnership in doing so. So we're seeking individuals that are looking for a franchise opportunity, many of which don't even have irrigation background, which is the first for the irrigation industry. So we're bringing outside thought leaders, outside business leaders into somewhat of a stagnant, kind of unsophisticated space. And we're adding and bringing sophistication to a 100-year-old industry. And it's exciting times to date. So in less than 1 year now, we have over 42 territories that we have expanded to across the US and now just moving into Canada.
What kind of qualifications and balance sheet does a franchisee need to have?
The biggest litmus test for me is on the balance sheet is that they have a social conscience. That's the biggest thing, is that they are affected by what we see as far as wasting water, and that the pure magnitude of 1.5 billion gallons of wasted water daily through irrigation systems, that call to action, if that is on the correct side of their balance sheet, that it actually causes them to step up and raise their hand. That's the most important. Beyond that, certainly we're looking for, there's really 4 different types of successful operators in our system to date. The first, and not in any particular order, is somebody that comes what we call a conversion type of model. Somebody that's been in the industry, that's been trying to build scale, that understands the need to operate a business efficiently, effectively, but really on the premise of water conservation. And they can convert their business to the Conserva model and grow from there. That we have many examples of successful leaders in our system that way. The other would be what we call maybe a second in command, somebody who's working for an existing irrigation system, never saw the opportunity or doesn't see in the future an opportunity to be an independent owner of that business, and so can step out and take their thoughtfulness around their trade, and they can grow their own business. We have successful examples of that. The other is a green industry participant, somebody already taking care of lawns, and it's a natural segue to diversify and bring irrigation under their fold. And then the last is, which we've already spoken about, is more of somebody coming from a corporate background that's looking to step into business. So any business owner, of course, has to come qualified, has to have access to capital. So we're doing and vetting. We vet that system out, or make for sure that the systems are in place for them to have that capital available.
Great. Well, I appreciate you walking us through that. This is really important. I want to circle back to the beginning again as we talk about water use and conservation in a typical suburban yard in the United States. I realize they're vastly different in Minnesota, Maine, and California and Florida, but what's the average water use and what's the opportunity for saving water in a typical suburban yard?
On a typical quarter-acre suburban yard, many people don't understand. I'll take my yard as an example. It's exactly that, about 10,000 square feet of turf, and that's it. And one time around that property with a standard irrigation system uses about 2,250 to 2,500 gallons. And while it's important that we teach our children and the next generation about maybe turning the water faucet off as we're brushing our teeth and trying to save water, and that does, it adds up. Cups add to gallons, which adds up to tens of thousands of gallons over time. But when we're talking about an irrigation system, a small suburban lot that without high efficient irrigation practices in place is using somewhere around 2,500 gallons. If we can reduce that by somewhere, on average, we're finding about 33,000 gallons per year, per season, per homeowner. It's incredible savings. I'm sorry, I mentioned that as seasons. I'm talking about on a monthly basis. I apologize. 33,000 gallons on a monthly basis throughout the season. That adds up. It's a significant amount of water savings.
Yeah, so it's 40 to 60%, right, of the use compared to a system that uses the old technology, just a timer?
Exactly. Yep. It's through standard, just real common knowledge and practical boots on the ground, what we call a type of approach, tightening up the system, making sure there's no leaks, making sure that the heads are adjusted and working properly, and then cycling in those higher efficient nozzles and heads, and then of course applying that smart controller technology. That's exactly where you're going to get those savings of 40 to 60%.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Commercial
pretty
properties
remarkable.
are even greater. Yeah, commercial properties, of course, larger footprints. We're seeing with some of our national contracts. We're proud to say that we've partnered with a very large retailer, the Target Corporation. And Target to date, we're in 322 of their stores. Just 68 of their stores last season, we were able to save over 36 million gallons of water. This year, we anticipate that to be 125 to 150 million gallons of water for that corporation as we continue to grow our partnership.
Well, and more and more water jurisdictions are going to some sort of tiered pricing so that the water used in the yard, in effect, gets billed at a higher rate. So there's a huge opportunity for consumers to save money and pay for their systems by the water savings, right?
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, we're finding that the residential consumer, they value professionalism, they value innovation, but they really truly value responsibility. They want to feel great, much like they recycle and they reduce their energy uses through common practices today of switching out light bulbs to LED bulbs, et cetera. Well, this is the next awareness that we're bringing socially to these folks and saying, hey, this is a practical, simplified way that you can feel great about green, lush lawns and plant material. And yet at the end of the day, you can of course add to the bottom line of your family checkbook, but you can also feel great about what you're doing for the environment and really providing an example for that next generation of doing what's right.
Oh, fantastic. Good. Russ, you've had a remarkable career already. What's the most important lesson you've learned? Thoughtfulness.
Being attentive to things that are beyond just you, beyond just the small world for which we live, and being thoughtful of what your actions do in a positive or a negative way. But really thoughtfulness is what comes to mind. And we're all about saving the Earth's water, having impact on the next generation, and providing a positive winning example that by doing things right, you can win, you can be rewarded, and it's a great way to live.
You could be doing anything. I mean, you really could. You're a super talented guy, and you've done a lot of different things at different stages of your career. But why are you so focused on water conservation? Why is this so important to you?
I think really the founding of it is growing up in the state of Minnesota. We are the land of 10,000 lakes. We love water. And we don't hug every tree, but we hug a few, right? We love our trees too, but we love water. I love water so much to the point that I live on a boat in the summer months. And I love being around it. It's so peaceful and so calming. And but once it's almost an infection, meaning once you learn of an abuse of a beautiful resource like that, you can't help but be infected by that calling to do something. And really, I had two different ways I could take that. I thought I could go to the Capitol, I could lobby, I could be an activist, I could do all I could do, and I do help in those measures as best I can. But at the end of the day, I knew that I wouldn't see effective change in my lifetime. So the other way was to study where's most of our water going? Well, 59% or more of our residential water use departs the house by way of irrigation. And the EPA indicates that half of that water at least is wasted. So I thought we got to go after the biggest bang for the buck, the biggest impact for our environment. Let's go after this 100-year-old industry, not abolish it, because that's not what's right either. We need healthy plant material. Let's try to improve it. Let's affect change, and let's grow really the largest US and then global irrigation company that by the end of my lifetime will have forced that change through education and through opportunity for people to learn about this important cause.
Fantastic. Russ, what is your superpower?
I think my superpower is relationships and telling stories that impact people and impact change. And I love collaborating, cooperating, and working together with great, highly talented people, far more talented than I, and inspiring them to go out and change the way we water the world.
Fantastic. Well, Russ, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. I know you're busy, but before you go, would you take just a minute and tell people how they can learn more about Conserva Irrigation and how they can connect with you personally?
Absolutely. So we have a great consumer website at conservairrigation.com. And to learn more about really what we do as a franchise organization, irrigationfranchise.com is a phenomenal platform. Has many pages of information for them to learn more about what we do, how we do, and why we do culturally. But again, irrigationfranchise.com and conservairrigation.com.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Russ. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today, and we wish you every success.
Devin, what a great pleasure. Thank you, and congratulations on your success as well.
No, thank you.
Good luck.
Let's do some good.
At Caring Crowd, we believe everyone has the power to make a difference. Through our crowdfunding platform for community health, we empower passionate people to drive real change. Whether you work for a nonprofit organization, volunteer, or want to get involved for the first time, you can post a campaign on Caring Crowd. Join us, because caring is where change begins.
Thank you for listening. This podcast is available at youtube.com/Devin Thorpe. Subscribe to this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes by searching for Your Mark on the World. Every weekday, Devin hosts a CEO, celebrity, entrepreneur, or other changemaker here on the Your Mark on the World show to inspire and prepare you to make your mark. Devin is a champion of social good, writing about, advocating for, and advising people who are doing good. He is a Forbes contributor who is a recognized thought leader in social entrepreneurship, impact investing, and crowdfunding. To book Devin as a speaker, visit devinthorpe.com.